Hollow Knight for me was a game that had really escaped me. I bought it around 4 years ago now, tried it for an hour and then dropped it for something else. It was a game that had every element to be one of my favourite games of all time, but I just dropped it. But that was until about a year ago when I decided to pick it back up and it became my life for months. If you know me, you'd know that my favourite genre of games are Souls-likes, and Hollow Knight was very, very heavily influenced by that kind of game. With the large winding world and the areas leading to bosses, it had everything to keep me hooked into the game. I just love this game so much and have so much to say about it, so I wanted to honour the game by providing a full and comprehensive review on this masterpiece ahead of the release of its sequel. Spoilers come in this video obviously, so if you haven't played the game, I highly encourage you to play it without knowing anything. Metroidvanias have been around since the 80s, with revolutionary games like Metroid and Castlevania. However, those are kind of the only great ones, hence the name. It was for this reason that though they were hugely popular, by 2017 Metroid hadn't had a 2D game in over a decade, and Castlevania was practically a dead franchise. The Metroidvania 2D scrollers were in desperate need of a renaissance, and by the mid-2010s it was in full swing, with games like Axiom Verge, Ori and the Blind Forest receiving widespread acclaim. There was one game, however, that would change the landscape of not only its genre, but gaming itself. And today I want to talk about that game. In the game, you play as the silent and lonely knight as you explore Hallownest, a fallen kingdom plagued by infections seeking answers to its own past. The story of Hollow Knight is so rich and deep that I really don't have enough time to explain it all, but to put it plainly, you are not the Hollow Knight. He's sealed within the Black Egg Temple by the Dreamers to hold back the Radiance's infection. However, he can't hold it back anymore, so it's your job to take over the mantle of the Hollow Knight. I highly recommend watching lore videos on Hollow Knight from creators like Mossbag because it's so surprisingly deep and I really don't have enough knowledge to speak on it fully. One of my favourite things about the game is being able to explore the world and find little tidbits and characters that would make the world feel larger than life. The world building in Hollow Knight is second to none and is probably my favourite thing about the game. The eccentric and rich characters give this world so much more depth, and it gives you another reason to care about the game because their dialogue is either so sweet or incredibly poetic. Even the characters that don't have their own storylines make the world feel fully lived in. What can really make or break a game is the ending of it. There are 3 possible endings for this game. The first 2 are really the same with a slight difference where you absorb the infection and become the Hollow Knight, with the second one having you trapped in the temple with Hornet. The third ending is triggered when Hornet swoops in to help, and instead of hitting the Hollow Knight normally, you dream nail him and fight the Radiance. The story and surrounding atmosphere of Hollow Knight is unmatched, and it is one of the most beautiful worlds I've ever had the pleasure of exploring. Now with the gameplay, when you start out it's quite simple. You can do a nail attack in every direction and you can jump, and that's about all you're given until you continue to explore. And that's a huge part of this game. You also start out with 5 Master of Health which you can heal by using your soul, which you gather by hitting enemies. The bare bones combat system at the start of the game allows the player to fully learn how to move, when you can strike and where you can go. Patience is the name of the game throughout, but especially at the start where you are limited to 1 attack. The further into the game you go, the more abilities you find. This includes the dash, wall jump, double jump, a super dash, and the ability to use spells. I will say this is kind of a gift and a curse though. When you start, you are given next to nothing until about an hour or 2 when you get the dash or the Vengeful Spirit. And on your first playthrough of the game, it feels like magic, slowly getting these abilities that can change the way you play the game damn near 10 hours into your run. On subsequent playthroughs, however, it feels a little tedious, basically coasting until you get your abilities again. It's like you have to learn the game again, and while that's something I find exciting because I love this game so damn much, I've seen this criticism thrown around and I completely see where people are coming from. For me though, I just love this world and the gameplay so much that going through the cycle of learning and unlearning is something that I've never felt I've had to do in a game, and I love it. The combat system really is a deep and fun one as you gain all of your abilities. There's quite a bit to talk about, so I'll start with what you'll most likely use, the spells. The first spell you get is the Vengeful Spirit, which is basically a spirit ball you can hurl across the room. Then you'll get Descending Dark, which is a ground slam, and Howling Wraiths, which releases a blast above and around yourself. To use the spells, you have to use some soul, which for me kind of put me off using them at the start. Now, obviously I do now, but it just is something that put me off. I feel like it's that way for a while until you realize that there aren't many fights where you're given an opportunity to heal, so you might as well use your soul. Another layer of combat are the nail arts. These include the Cyclone Slash given by Mato, the dash slash given by Oro, and the Great Slash given by Sheo. While I didn't use these often, they were hugely helpful in places like the Colosseum or Forts for these fuckers and the Pantheons. There are all of these abilities, and that's just the combat. A massive part of this game is the exploration and platforming. The movement in this game is so smooth and reactive that when you jump and move, you can go basically anywhere you point. The movement and platforming is helped especially by the abilities you gain like the dash, wall jump, double jump, and super dash. While most of these are basic skills in any Metroidvania, the super dash adds an extra layer of depth that the game leans into quite a bit. Another bit of platforming that I like are the pogo jumps you can do by pointing down and swiping. It just adds an extra layer and makes the exploration super fun and most of the time rewarding. I really don't have any criticism at all about the movement and platforming in this game. It always keeps you on your toes and it forces you to learn these mechanics as well, which I like. The game also offers charms, and similar to rings in Dark Souls, they give you different effects, like a longer reach when hitting or give you more health. It gives you an opportunity to play in different ways, but I'm definitely someone who finds something he likes and sticks with it the whole time. All of these elements make for what I think is one of the best combat and platforming mechanics I've ever played in a game. There's so much depth and layers that you can learn, and when you do it so smoothly and when you learn it properly, you really feel unstoppable. One of Hollow Knight's biggest strengths is the freedom it gives you to explore. You could really take any route on your way to beating the game and it wouldn't be a bad one. Basically all the areas are maze-like and it can be a struggle sometimes to navigate, but with the right equipment you'll find your way fairly easily. Almost every area manages to give you a different challenge, whether it's unique enemies or the platforming. The best areas for me are ones that can give you both, which are Queen's Gardens, City of Tears, and Green Path. Of the three I mentioned, Green Path will be the first area you explore. Green Path is a grassy area home to a lot of acid and thorns, and some of the prettiest moments you'll ever see in the game. When you first explore the area, you're basically following Hornet, and it's such a blast going through this area and exploring every bit of it. The enemies are also quite unique for the early game and offer you a different challenge to the enemies of the Forgotten Crossroads. Then after reaching and defeating Hornet, you are given the dash, and this is going to be your best friend for the next 100 hours you play. My favourite thing about Green Path is that after you defeat Hornet, you're given no direction whatsoever, and you have free reign to go wherever you like and explore wherever you like. It's like this beautiful, lush green maze with this absolutely stunning and beautiful music playing. There's a reason why this is one of the most popular areas in the game for most people. The Queen's Gardens is an underrated area in my opinion. With the platforming and enemies, which are for the most part unique to the rest of the game, it gives a nice change of pace with the mostly repetitive nature of these areas. While it is similar to Green Path aesthetically, it leaves its own unique mark on the game with the story beats this area provides and the lore characters. And lastly, the City of Tears is one of the biggest and most interconnected areas in the game, with it being connected to 6 other areas. What makes this area the best in the game in my opinion is the entire atmosphere. The music and the art is absolutely beautiful and is kind of reminiscent of the dreary atmosphere of Bloodborne. There's also a decent variety of new enemies and enemy types which are a whole different challenge on their own. I would say that the City of Tears is the heart of this game. It feels like absolutely everything revolves around it, and everywhere you go there's a piece of it there. Now I wouldn't say there are really bad areas in this game. There are some pretty average ones that have amazing things about them. Kingdom's Edge has the second Hornet fight in the Colosseum of Fools, Royal Waterway has the Dung Defender, and the Abyss gives us probably the best story sequence in the game. The only area in this game that I don't really know what to make of is the Deep Nest. It's one of those areas where you either love it or hate it, and that's shown by this community ranking of areas having the 4th most votes for best area and 2nd most for worst area. I'd say that your feelings about this area really depend on when you get there, because you could easily get there way too early and have the worst time of your life navigating around this absolute labyrinth of an area. No lantern and no upgrade on your nail, and you're set for an absolute nightmare until you're able to get out. I can't say for sure, but I'm pretty certain that this area was the reason why I stopped playing the first time. Sure, they give you environmental warning of what's to come, but man, I don't pay enough attention to it. It's probably my biggest gripe with the game, because once you're in deep, it is so hard to get out. But the game does give you outs when you die with Confessor GG, but I didn't know that when I first played, and I don't think other people would either. But I do really like Deep Nest for what it is. It's such a creepy and unnerving place, and as someone who's scared of spiders, this is made so much worse. The background noise doesn't help either, with the constant sound of scurrying, which just makes my skin crawl at times. While I do love the areas of this game, it's hard to ignore that they feel very familiar with their layout. It doesn't really provide a variety of platforming challenges, and a lot of the exploration can feel samey. While I don't think it takes away from the enjoyment of the game, it can be a little disappointing considering the highs this game has. Now when I say the platforming is repetitive, you know for damn sure I'm not talking about the White Palace, the bane of my existence. The White Palace is an area in the game which you can unlock by fully upgrading the Dream Nail and nailing this guy. The area is filled with platforming challenges that are really just so fun and varied, and honestly there are some moments where you just have to stare at the screen for 10 minutes wondering how the hell do you do this. While it is a pretty useless area in terms of the overarching story of the game, it provides an optional change of pace and a big change of difficulty when it comes to platforming. And within the White Palace, it's the infamous Path of Pain. My god, when I tell you I spent hours here, I mean hours. This is one of the hardest challenges I've ever done for a game, and I usually wouldn't really give it the time of day because it's optional, but I just love this game so much, and I wanted to do everything that I could and squeeze every last drop of content I could out of it. I was up until 1 in the morning, feeling like a zombie doing this final part for what felt like an hour. And I had to celebrate in silence because when I did it, everyone was asleep, but that's a moment I'll never forget. All you get for it is lore, but I don't really care, man. I did that shit. Now be warned, at the end of the Path of Pain, there are 2 enemies, and I don't even have words to explain this moment. It was heartbreaking. Another mini area in this game that's optional but really fun and worthwhile is the Colosseum of Fools. This mini area provides 3 gauntlets of enemies with some really worthwhile rewards at the end of them. I will say that the first 2 are so much easier than the last one because I first tried the first 2 and it took me hours to beat the third, and it was always because of these fucking motherfuckers. While both of these areas are absolutely skippable, you're doing yourself a disservice by not going through it because it adds so much to the world building and the overall game. Plus, it's also just really fun to do. All in all, I really love the areas in this game. They all feel kind of characteristically unique from each other, but really similar in terms of enemy variety and layout. The music complements these areas really well, and it gives each area a unique feeling. One of the game's strongest points are the bosses. While most games have their inconsistency when it comes to it, Hollow Knight manages to find this incredible consistency across 47 fights, and I'm pretty confident in saying that of all the games I've played, Hollow Knight has the best collection of bosses ever. That's not to say every boss is perfect, but the amount of quality is something that I've never seen in a game. One of the most critical bosses for a game is the first one, and I feel that this game knocks it out of the park for the introductory boss, the False Knight. Now sure, when you're fully leveled and at the Pantheons, it can be pretty easy, but fighting this guy for the first time is awesome, and I won't let anyone tell me otherwise. Having the first boss you encounter be a surprise is brilliant and really lets you know that you have to expect anything and everything in every room you enter. It can be quite overwhelming at first for a new player, and it really forces you to learn its attack patterns, which is useful for the rest of the game. The next boss you'll likely face is Hornet, who acts as a skill check twice in the game for the player, and both times are extremely fun. As opposed to the slow-moving False Knight, Hornet is fast and agile and is a stark difference from any other enemy you've faced thus far. These 2 bosses are a perfect setup for the rest of the game in terms of boss mechanics. They both force you to learn their patterns and think quicker than you have been up to this point. I'd be inclined to say that along with Bloodborne, this is the best first 2 bosses ever when it comes to preparing you for enemy types and the rest of the bosses. As I said before, Hollow Knight has some of the best bosses in a game ever. And the next one I want to talk about is the one that gets almost everyone obsessed with the game, the Mantis Lords. Just an absolute thrilling fight, and one that, while I was already loving the game, took the game to another level for me. The gist of the fight is that you start off fighting one of them, when you finish him, you fight 2 at once, and it's just so damn fun. Having to keep track of both of these fast-paced and unforgiving bosses is so difficult as a new player, but it's so addictive that it doesn't even matter. And this is taken to another level in the Godmaster DLC, where they surprise you and have you fight all 3, and my god, what a fight. It's the kind of fight that you go into a flow state, and when you look back on it, you're like, how the fuck did I do that? There are a few different kinds of bosses in this game. There are the normal ones that I previously mentioned, and then there are Warrior Dreams and Dream variants of bosses. To start with, Warrior Dreams are remnants of particularly strong bugs from the past, who the knight can fight by dream nailing their grave. A bit morbid, I know, but we'll move on. There are a couple that I want to highlight with, starting with Markoth, who is really a tale of 2 fights. When you first encounter him, he really is a good challenge and one of the funner bosses you'll have to fight. He'll fly around with his shield and throw spikes at you, and it's a really fun challenge. Until you get to the Pantheons, and he makes you want to die. I hate you so much. Why did they remove the floor? Oh my god, I hate you! It's really bad in the Pantheon. The other warrior dream I'd like to talk about is Galleon, and he's probably my favorite warrior dream of them all. He'll float around the arena with his scythe chasing you the whole time, and it's just a really fun fight once you truly understand it. And even when you're learning it, it's fun to learn. The scythe feels like it has real momentum, and once you know how to game its movements and understand the patterns, it's such a fun fight. Shout out my man Gorb as well. The dream variants of bosses are probably some of my favorite in the game. Now, what is a dream variant? Well, it's in the name. It's a variant of a base game boss that appears if you dream nail their corpse. I know a lot of this game is dark. My favorite in the game would have to be when you dream nail the Dung Defender and you have to fight the White Defender. I promise you it's not as bad as it sounds. The White Defender is a faster variant of a boss who was already one of my favorites, so it's really an upgrade in every way. Another great boss variant, and probably the hardest, is the Lost Kin, who is a variant to the Broken Vessel. It's absolutely brutal, and one that when I first played had struggled so much against. I would just run into him head on over and over again, and he would just obliterate me every time. But when I eventually beat him, I felt like I'd just gotten so much better at the game, and it was another spark in me that would make me fall in love with this game even more. Experimenting with charms and strategies had me so hooked that I spent hours banging my head against the wall to fight this guy, and even though I may have CTE from it, god damn it, I beat the hell out of him. Now, while there are some amazing bosses in this game, it has no shortage of underwhelming ones, and one of them being Fluke Mom. I mean, why does this guy even exist? It's not hard, the reward is underwhelming, and it's not fun to look at. And there's the Collector, who, I don't want to talk about him actually, he's just annoying. His laugh, fuck his laugh. Fuck you. Why are you laughing at me? Don't laugh at me. I kick your ass every time. Why are you still laughing? Just not fun, I'm sorry. With these bosses in mind, the good outweighs the bad by a huge margin. And as I've said many times in this video, the game has the best collection of bosses in any game I've ever played, and I'm willing to be proven wrong. Ooh, baby. Ooh, it's DLC time. You hear me rubbing? You hear me rubbing my hands together? Let's fucking go. It's my favorite time. Hollow Knight's DLCs are great, but not perfect. The first I want to talk about is the Grim Troop DLC, and I think that this provides us with a couple of amazing bosses, but the lead up really is just tedious and not very fun. You have to run around the world to fight 3 enemies, head back to the camp, do it again, fight Grim, who was a great boss, do it again, and gain access to one of the best bosses in the whole game, Nightmare King Grim. And this boss alone is worth all the hassle that comes with it. Nightmare King Grim is an amazing fight, and one that if it were in any other game would be its best, but the best is yet to come. The boss feels very similar to Dancer of the Boreal Valley from Dark Souls 3 in that it feels like a dance with the boss, but King Grim is so much faster. If the game wasn't telling you enough to learn the bosses, it is hammering you in the head with it. Even though he does have a very limited moveset, they come at you so quick that it almost feels like you have to develop a faster reaction time just to survive. While I do think that this DLC is worthwhile for Nightmare King Grim, it's a shame that you have to go through a really annoying process to get to its climax. One of the best bosses in the game, and it's hidden behind content that if I hadn't fallen in love with this game already, I would have dropped. Now for the next DLC, ooh, I love this one. The Goldmaster DLC adds into the game a boss rush mode that has new bosses and new variants of bosses. There are 4 pantheons you have to beat. The Pantheon of the Master, the Artist, the Sage, and the Knight to reach the Holy Grail, the Pantheon of Hallownest. A 42 boss pantheon that, if you have a deep run, can last up to 30 to 40 minutes that'll either end in heartbreak or the greatest rush of adrenaline you'll ever have. The added bosses in this DLC are amazing. The first one you'll encounter is in the first pantheon, brothers Oro and Mato. You start off the fight with Oro, then about halfway through Mato joins in, and brother, it is hard. I remember fighting these guys for the first time and constantly getting stuck in the middle of them, and it's damn near impossible to get out of without taking damage. Obviously, Oro and Mato are 2 NPCs in the game. They each give you nail arts, and they use their respective one during the fight, which is a nice little touch. The next boss added is in the next pantheon, Paintmaster Sheo, and while he isn't the hardest boss, aesthetically he's one of the most unique in the whole game. All of his attacks are basically color-coded, and when he attacks, a splash of paint bursts from his paintbrush. Just a really cool and unique fight that feels out of place in a good way. The Pantheon of the Sage brings us Great Nail Sage Sly, who is a pretty good boss. He's hard as hell at first because he's so small that his hitbox is damn near impossible to hit sometimes, but once you know how to do it, it becomes pretty trivial. The next one though, is probably the best in the whole game, Pure Vessel. It's an absolute blast of a fight. It takes the final boss of the game, the Hollow Knight, and makes him faster, harder, and hits for 2 masks of damage. It's just such a fun fight to learn, and when you get his movements perfected, you feel like you're flying. The next boss that I want to talk about is one that I have a love-hate relationship with, Absolute Radiance. While I do think it's a great boss, it's just also absurdly hard. Also, just to access him is ridiculously hard. You see, In this DLC, there is the Hall of Gods that allows you to practice every boss in the game to get ready for the Pantheon fight, but you can only access them if you've encountered them, so with Absolute Radiance you have to fight through the Pantheon of Hallownest. 41 bosses, just to be able to practice him. It took me, and I'm not even joking, weeks just to be able to practice him. And while that might be a skill issue, it was a bit much. It took me to my limits. While I do love a challenge, this almost made me tap out. It's just so unbelievably hard that I couldn't find it in myself to constantly practice this fight. So I have so much respect for people who have beaten him on Radiant difficulty because I just didn't have the stomach for it. This DLC is awesome, and while I haven't been able to finish it properly, I can proudly say that I have beaten Absolute Radiance at least once in the Hall of Gods, and that is all I have the courage to do. The DLCs in this game add so much more lore and gameplay into a game that already has an incredible amount of both. The Godmaster DLC in particular is one of my favorites I've ever played just because of the bosses added alone. This game is special, not only to me but for the gaming industry. It revived a near-dead genre and revolutionized it. It, in my opinion, also has the best selection of bosses ever, and the Godmaster DLC proves it. This game really changed my life and became the sole focus of it for months. And with the release of Silksong seeming to be on the horizon, I think it's going to take over my life again. So I just wanted to say thank you, Team Cherry, for this amazing world that you've created. And that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I do really enjoy making these kinds of videos that I just spend so much time on, and I write 10 pages worth of stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you like these kinds of videos. I'm thinking of doing more of these masterpiece videos for things that just really mean a lot to me. Things like Bloodborne, things like Hollow Knight, even movies like maybe Eraserhead, The Lighthouse. Just things that kind of changed my life, that made me change my perspective on how I view things and how I view the world around me. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see ya.